the kind you wear a tie. Button up from 9 to 5. I tried that life but said goodbye. I'm not always polite, but I get the job done. Who says that work can never be fun? I'm simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Join me tonight. We got Devin.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Devin.
And we got Rob.
Hey, guys. It's Rob.
So I am back. I apologize for not being here. I had a tooth ripped from my skull. It was very not pleasant. And ask Rob. I've been kind of a whiny asshole for like the past week.
A little bit.
The healing process has also been a little slow because so it was in the upper right hand corner of my mouth, right? And I had gotten out of bed one morning and I had tripped and I had fallen in my room. And Devin, as you know, we have hard floors. They're not, it's concrete floors. But I had smacked the right side of my face on the floor. So that just kind of added to everything and just the general misery. So, last week when you guys recorded SU, I might have even been sleeping. I tried to sleep through a lot of it just because I was miserable in general. Have either of you ever had a tooth pulled?
I mean, my wisdom teeth out. It doesn't really count though. You're asleep for that usually.
I was awake when I had all four of mine pulled, and I was awake for that.
I was numbed up, but I think I passed out because I didn't even not passed out, but the medicine just put me to sleep because
right.
I closed my eyes and I opened my eyes and he's like, all right, you're all done. I'm like, impossible. I've been here for 5 minutes. What are you talking about?
Right.
And he's like, no, you're all done. I was like, bullshit. And then he's like, oh shit, I am done. All right.
I've had 8 teeth pulled 4 at a time, twice.
Jesus.
And they weren't even there was nothing wrong with them. It's just my mouth was too small and they wouldn't have fit. So
yeah.
And then the first time they did it, they gave me laughing gas, which did absolutely nothing. I could tell it from what happened, I could tell it was affecting me, but it didn't help with the pain at all because everything looked like it was far away, down a tunnel.
Yeah.
But when they started pulling the teeth, I could feel the pain, and they're like, "Oh no, it's just pressure." I'm like, "It's not fucking pressure, it's fucking pain." So then the second time when they did the second 4, I think it was a couple months later, I made them put me to sleep. I'm like, "You're putting me to sleep, or I'm not doing it."
See, so I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and like I said, I had all 4 of them pulled at the same time.
I still have my wisdom teeth.
One of mine, 2 of mine, my lower ones were coming in already. One of them had a hole in it and an exposed nerve.
That's not good.
And in any case, when I had the wisdom teeth pulled, I had to go to a different dentist than my normal dentist. He gave me laughing gas, which I would say didn't work, but it totally did. But he also, I was on Valium. Same thing because of my anxiety. I had to take a Valium 45 minutes before I went in. And then they had me take another one when I got there. And then they gave me laughing gas. And then they gave me a shot of, the lidocaine or whatever, Novocaine. I think it's lidocaine now. Man, when they busted that needle out, I remember the needle itself looked like it was it looked like a ruler. It looked like it was a foot-long needle. And I was like, what the hell are you going to do with that, doc? He's like, oh, this is so I can numb the area. I was like, what are you going to push it through my entire skull? Why does it need to be that big? I don't understand. But when they were pulling it, the only reason I know the laughing gas worked. And again, like he told me, he's like, okay, you're going to feel pressure. You're going to feel me pushing around and your head's going to move around and you're definitely going to hear the cracking of the bone. And he says to a lot of people, that's the most unnerving part. And he gave me earphones and, I was able to listen to music, while I was doing this. And he's like, you just have to listen to it low enough where you can hear me talking to you so you can give me a thumbs up. And he's like, and if at any point it starts hurting, just raise your left hand. Yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I get all numbed up, right? And I'm just smiling the whole time because of the laughing gas. And they lean me back and they pull the first one. I didn't feel a thing. They pull the second one. I didn't feel it. I heard the cracking, which, again, that's the unnerving part, I will say. It's not cool hearing that in your skull. But the reason I know the laughing gas worked, and man, a lot of people, like, I don't know. Devin, have you ever had laughing gas?
No, actually.
Okay. Rob, when you had it, did it make you, like, giggle at all? Like, did it make you giggly?
Definitely not after they started pulling the teeth, because I was just fucking crying.
Okay.
But in the beginning, like I said, everything looked like it was down a tunnel. I might have been giggly at that point. I don't really remember.
Man, okay, so I was giggly for sure. He started pulling the second tooth, and I had my eyes open. Now, a lot of the times, especially when they're working in my mouth, I have big fat cheeks, so when I smile, my eyes tend to close anyway. But I remember I was looking up. I was just looking straight up, and the nurse was holding, like, she was, like, leaning over, doing the little mouth suction tube thingy, and she kept pushing on my forehead, like, kind of like, almost like petting my forehead, and, and she was very calmly talking to me throughout the whole process, telling me that I was doing a good job, this, that, and the other thing, right? I'm just like, and I'm trying not to talk, because I'm conscious that he's working in my mouth, but I'm trying to also acknowledge because she's talking to me, and in my mind I was like, it's polite, I have to respond somehow. All of a sudden he pulls one of the teeth. I just see a gout of blood, just a splurt of blood spray up out of my mouth, and like I visually saw it, and to me it was like seeing Yosemite. I was like, oh my god, it's like a fountain. I started laughing my ass off. The doctor had to pull, like, he pulled all the tools and instruments out. The doctor started chuckling slightly. The nurse is like, are you okay? And I could not stop laughing. I tried to stand up, and she's like, no, we're not done. You have 2 more teeth to pull. And I was like, I gotta go. She's like, where are you gonna go? I was like, I have to go home, I think. She's like, did you drive here? I was like, no, my mom drove. It was the most surreal. I will say, out of all the times I've ever had teeth pulled, my wisdom teeth, I did not feel a thing.
Again, I felt things after the fact.
Oh, for sure, after the fact. I was miserable, like especially a few hours after.
My grandmother took me. I got my teeth pulled, and the doctor was like, "All right." He gave me like just enough meds. He's like, "Hey, I didn't want to give you extra." He's like, because I didn't want to give you too much. He's like, so you're good to go. He's like, it might start to wear off once you get on your way home. And I was like, okay. I got in the car, and then like we're driving home, and we're about to get on the freeway. I look at my grandma, and these tears just well up in my eyes, and I'm like, my mouth hurts, and I want a cheeseburger.
Yeah,
exactly what I wanted.
That's you can ask Rob this week after I had my tooth pulled. One of the things I mentioned to him, because Rob was super sweet. He got me pudding. He got me applesauce. I had a bunch of just soft foods that I knew I could eat. After I think on the second day,
Webby chucking pudding across the room. Like, I don't want pudding. I want a cheeseburger.
I mean, that happened later in the week.
Yeah, on the second day, I attempted mac and cheese, but it still was a little too solid, so I went back to the applesauce and the pudding. By the end of the second day, start of the third day, I remember I had written Rob a text. He was in the other room, but I couldn't talk. My jaw hurt really bad. And I wrote him a message on Discord saying, pizza chicken wings, burger, bacon. These are all things that I want as soon as I can eat solid foods all at the same time. Like, I don't care. I'm tired of fucking pudding. I could not stand pudding anymore. Like, I don't have much of a sweet tooth. Like, I like pudding. But, like, the thought, it literally got to the point where, like, the thought of having a bowl of ice cream or another little pudding cup or whatever was literally making me nauseous. I was like, I can't.
End it all. He was like, I can't do this anymore.
I just can't. No, yeah. So
he yelled at me for making grilled cheese for myself.
Yeah, yeah.
You selfish bastard!
I remember because I had gone to sleep. I had gotten some pain meds that made me sleepy, and I went and laid down and I fell asleep. I woke up and I smelled grilled cheese, and I was like, no. And then I came out, and my first instinct was, okay, I must just be smelling something. Maybe I'm having a stroke, because I didn't see the griddle turned, like, it wasn't turned on, it wasn't plugged in. But then I saw the spatula in front of it, and I was like, you son of a bitch. So I went to Rob's room, I was like, fuck you for making grilled cheese for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to eat things he didn't like. I ate a bunch of After Helper because I knew he hated that, but... Yeah, so I was like, well, he's asleep. I'll make some grilled cheese. So he got up and yelled at me when he woke up.
That's funny. That's funny as shit.
So, yeah, so that's kind of been my week. I just finally, like last night, I had chicken wings. My mouth is still a little sore / like tender on the right-hand side, but I'm able to kind of chew things a little bit better and more conscientiously on my left side. So I'm just happy that I'm able to eat solid foods again. I'm trying to stay away from things that are like crunchy. So like, sadly, I haven't tried pizza yet because I don't know how like some of the toppings or like the crust will be, like the dough. Because I know some pizza places, the crust and the dough is a little crunchy, and I have a hard time with like harder things. But yeah, so thankfully I'm at least into more solid foods than pudding. Now we have a fridge half full of pudding that I'm not gonna want to eat.
Don't blame you, buddy.
But
don't blame you in the slightest.
So that was my venture into the dentist. Although I will say, going in, so I have really bad anxiety, which is why I have to have like a Valium, like they have to prescribe me something just to keep my blood pressure low enough
before you go in there.
Right. And so I went in there, and like even up to the point where I was in the chair and they were giving me the shots and everything, like I was like fidgeting and I couldn't stop moving there. And the nurse was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm about to have a tooth pulled. I get like this every single time." And the doctor was there, and she's like, "It's fine. We're going to do everything we can. If anything hurts at all, just raise your hand and we'll just numb you up some more." Right. And I told her, and I have had problems in the past with like specifically the shots of like Novocaine that they give you. And apparently the one dentist I went to, the first time I went to this place, because I now go to a place called Urgent Dental Care. It was a place that I didn't have to make an appointment. Like I could just call them and they told me, okay, yeah, we can take you or come in tomorrow or whatever. I didn't have to schedule like a month in advance. And they had essentially told me, and they explained to me that based off of my x-rays and prior knowledge, it's because of where the nerve clusters are in my gums apparently are just slightly off-centered or off from normal. And I tried telling the doctor that. She's like, okay, I get it. There's, whatever. And she gave me 2 shots, and I was like, oh, man. Now, the worst I've ever had is my original dentist. I remember when I was a kid, I had the same dentist for years and years and years. Now, when I was in my 20s, I had to go and I had to have a tooth just worked on. I wasn't even getting it pulled. And I remember he had to drill. He was drilling it, so it had to have been like a cavity or something just getting filled. But he gave me, I think, upwards of like 9 shots of Novocaine before I finally didn't feel it. And it wasn't just in my head. Like, it was like legitimately, I just kept feeling it every single time he drilled. And I think that's why I have such bad anxiety. But this time, she gave me 2 shots, and now my anxiety was going, farther and farther because I was like, God damn, she only gave me 2. I'm going to fuck it. This is going to suck. I'm going to be in so much pain. And she's like, okay, you're going to feel me wiggling around. And I did. And then she's like, all done. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, you're good to go. Just bite down on this gauze. I literally, no joke, broke down in tears in the dentist office. And the nurse is like, are you okay? Why are you crying? I was like, you guys are so sweet. It was literally the best, quickest, least painful experience at a dentist I had ever had. And it drove me to tears.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I fucking hate the dentist.
Me too.
I will go almost to any doctor's appointment before I go to my dentist appointment. I know because I've canceled my dentist appointment for like the dumbest reasons. The past I don't know, 8 times.
Yep.
Like I went to this dentist that I go to now because I literally cracked a filling at work. At 5 a.m. as I was getting ready to leave in 35-40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Cracked a filling, and I was like, "Fuck." Well, I call them. They get me in the next day. I was like, "All right, cool." So did that. Then all right, well, we got to schedule you for an actual checkup and cleaning. I was like, "All right, cool." And then they call me hey, you're still going to be on for this appointment on this day? I was like, "Oh, sorry, no,
yep.
I'm going to have to move that a week back."
Yep.
Yep, nope, my job just moved me. I'm actually about 4 hours north where I was, at least for a couple of months here. I'll give you guys a call back when I get down there.
Yep.
Just
Dude, I make up the dumbest excuses to get out of and you legitimately, you don't have to
don't
lie.
even need an excuse.
You don't even need one. You could just be like, nah, I'm not coming in. Yeah, it's not their job. They can't fire you as a patient.
Well, they can. They can.
Well, yeah.
But it's a dentist. I don't care.
Right. And I don't know. It's just I don't know.
I was just saying though, why do I feel the need I have to have an excuse to not go? They don't really give a shit, but
right.
I feel the need I have to be no. I'm not a little bitch. I'm telling you, not a little bitch. I just don't want to do. I can't do because of X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, I'd be there with bells on. You better believe it.
I totally agree. I haven't gotten a new dentist since I moved up here, and I have 2 of my teeth have actually cracked, and I still have not gone to the dentist because they don't hurt. So I'm just like, fuck it. I don't want to go to the dentist because they're gonna pull these, and I don't want to.
Well, I mean, eventually that is something that you. Sadly,
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, you're
but
gonna
I
have
can
to
put it
pull
off
the
as
trigger.
long as I can.
Well, as long as it doesn't become a health risk for you, because a tooth infection is probably one of the worst pains I've ever felt.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't feel any pain. It doesn't hurt. So, not in the slightest. So I'm just gonna put it off until it does start to hurt.
I mean, that's exactly what I did too. You know how leading up to me having to get that tooth pulled, I kept having the really bad headaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it was a tooth infection.
Mm-hmm.
Then they give you the antibiotics that they want you to take for a week, and the antibiotics clears up the infection, which makes the headache go away. And I was half planning on just being well, the antibiotics worked. I don't have a headache anymore. I'm not in pain, so I guess I can just not go to the dentist. But then I didn't want to run the risk of it getting reinfected, so I was like, fuck it. Obviously, there's something wrong with the tooth. Just pull the tooth. And the thing is, I'm fucking dead scared of root canals because I've known several people in my life who have had root canals, and then they've had bad experiences with them. The crown's falling out, and this, that, and the other thing, and they keep having to go back to have that same tooth worked on. So it's no, okay, root canals are super expensive. I don't want something bad to happen to where I have to go back and have something worked on again because, a fucking thing fell out. Just pull the goddamn tooth. I just get it done and over with. Then I don't have to deal with that tooth anymore. Eventually I'm going to end up being, they're like, oh, well, eventually you're not going to have any teeth. It's like, man, when my dad was 30, like 33, he didn't have any teeth, and he never had a problem talking. He never had a problem eating. The only things he couldn't eat was like corn off the cob. He'd have to cut his corn off the cob. Other than that, like, he ate pizza, he ate steak. He ate steak faster than I could eat steak. And I had a mouthful of teeth. So, whatever. Plus, I mean, hey, you can always get dentures if I really want to. So I'm not overly concerned about it. Ideally, I just want to get into a position where I never have to see a dentist again. Ever. For any reason. That would be ideal.
I mean, yeah, that would be ideal. Sure, like I think me, myself, and a lot of other people. I think the dentist is probably the most hated.
Yeah.
Fucking like subspecialty of medicine,
and they know it. But and that's honestly that's why it drove me to tears the last time too. Is because like you never have good dental experiences. Like you never go to the dentist and am happy about it. But I left that one extremely happy and grateful that I didn't feel pain. It was super quick, and they were super nice about it.
I mean, the dentist I go to is pretty cool. They're actually like more like high tech and futuristic. So they have a VR headset when you're in there, and when you're getting your work done, they'll put a VR headset on you, and you can watch Netflix and shit like right there. So you don't even have to like hear. They have like headphones and stuff that go on. Yep. You don't have to hear or see anything. It's kind of cool, but still, it's still the dentist.
Yeah.
And like the dentist is just unnecessarily expensive.
That's fair. Yes, very much. Well, okay. Well, I mean, that's all I gotta say about dentists. I won't bore everybody. We've talked 20 minutes about dentists.
I mean, that's fine.
I know one thing that we wanted to talk about too, and maybe we'll do a more in-depth review of it. But I did want to touch upon the newest Stranger Things season. I believe it was season 4 or 5. I think 4.
4.
So spoiler alerts, if you haven't watched Stranger Things season 4 yet, go watch it. I highly recommend it. It's a good season. I thought it was a good season. If you haven't
seen any of Stranger Things yet, what are you doing with your life? Go watch it.
Yeah, no joke.
It's a good show.
So, spoiler alerts heading forward for, I don't know, the next X amount of time. So this season, every season, they've had a D&D-esque reference monster. The first season was the Demigorgon. The second season was the Mind Flayer. The third season, because me and Rob rewatched it, was a continuation, I believe, of the Mind Flayer. Am I wrong on that one, Rob?
Yeah, no, that's correct.
The fourth season was the introduction of Vecna as the monster. We also got to we were introduced to one of my favorite characters, and by far a character involved in probably my favorite scene of Stranger Things so far, and that's Eddie, who when you meet him. You're like, oh, this guy's kind of an asshole, but he grows on you, and he's the dungeon master of their high school D&D club, the Hellfire Club. And well, let me just ask you both this. So far, out of the 4 seasons, where would you rank this as far as would you rank this in is this like your 4th favorite season? Like your least favorite? Is it your most favorite? Is it somewhere in the middle? Like, where would you rank this? Let's start with Rob.
I'd probably put it at like number 2. right after the first season.
Okay, yeah, I'm probably right there with you on that.
Yeah, I'm in the same one. It's right for me. I think it goes first season, this season, second season, third season. The
Yep.
Russian subplot was not my favorite, but I did really like the Robin and fuck, what's his name?
Steve.
Steve, like the Steve and Robin, like, well, the Steve like character growth and the Robin like introduction.
Yeah.
3. That was like my favorite part, but I did, honest to God, I hated the Russian subplot.
Yeah.
And I hated it in this too, but it wasn't like awful.
Now I will say there was a few Easter eggs, and I didn't notice it at first when it first happened when me and Rob watched it. Rob, do you remember at the end when Hopper in the prison grabbed that sword, and you're like, "Where did he get the sword?" And then we remembered that they had a weapon rack.
Yeah.
Yep.
That sword was Conan's sword.
Yeah, I saw that.
I didn't recognize it at first.
I didn't realize it until I read the article. I was like, it was the actual prop sword too. Like they got it from the Conan set.
Yeah. Man, Hopper lost a lot of weight for season 4. I will say that. But yeah,
buff.
What's that?
He got buff.
He did. So we all ranked them pretty much the same as far as, in the order of what we think, best to worst. And I mean, I really don't think there's a bad season. I think the show in general is all around a good show. But man, I as much as I want to continue talking about it, man, dude, the Master of Puppets scene where Eddie's playing the guitar on top of the trailer, I got so pumped for that scene. Yeah, hands down, probably my favorite scene in the entire series.
Same.
So, and I mean, I'm a longtime Metallica fan, and I think they chose the perfect song. The lead into it was great. I really feel bad for that character. At the same time, I do understand, and like, so again, I already said spoilers. I'm sad that he's dead, but I'm glad at the way they had him go out, if that makes sense.
Right.
It
does.
I mean, he went out like a champ.
He did.
But
he went out on top.
Yeah, well, he went out on the ground, but yeah, I get it. Now, Devin, watching it through, because I know me and Rob, like, we were able to, when we were watching it, we were able to talk back and forth, and we had different theories and things like that. Watching the newest season, did you have any inkling of who Vecna was before they had that reveal?
No, but then like it's funny. Like after the reveal, I look at it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But like before, I was like, I didn't really like the prosthetics. Like I didn't even tell the same actor. But yeah, no, I had no. Am I muted? No, I'm not.
Nope.
I had no real inkling of it. On who it could be until they kind of were playing. I kind of figured it out a little bit as they were like in the process of the reveal, like doing the backstory and everything. Yeah. I was like, oh, it's fucking what's his name? What's his nuts? But I didn't have like a 100% like idea.
See, I remember, and Rob, correct me if I'm misremembering, but I remember I had a couple different theories on who it could be. And I know at one time we thought, okay, well, maybe it's going to end up being the old man, but then Vecna was around before then. before that guy was dead. And then the second they showed that guy, number one, before we find out that he was the first one, I remember the second they showed him, I was like, oh, there's something wrong with this guy. Like, he just had that face. Like, he had that face like, oh, he's bad news somewhere. But then they had me tricked when we found out that he was number one, but he was helping 11. I was like, oh, I don't understand now. Like, I feel like he's a bad guy, but he's seeming really nice. Now, Rob, did you have? I forget what some of your theories. Who did you think Vecna was during it, or did you think it was just another entity and not somebody that had been shown? I guess.
Well, at first I had thought it was the guy, but then they figured out he was still alive or whatever. The one that tore his eyes out. Like, at first I had thought it was him until they found out he was still alive and in prison or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think I just kind of, like, I didn't realize, like, that Vecna was, like, the number one was the little boy that moved into the house. So, I don't know. I don't think I really had a theory about who it was.
I do remember that being kind of a twist to me. Like, I didn't realize that little boy was one.
Yeah, neither did I.
Man, I don't know. Like, without doing like an in-depth, like, moment by moment review, I can't even really pick out any great scenes. Like, I actually enjoyed part of the prison scene. I'm with Rob. Rob had made a mention, Devin, and maybe it's something that I don't know if maybe you had the same thought, or whatnot. But when Joyce and that conspiracy guy, I don't remember his name, went and met that Russian pilot to get flown into Russia to go save Hopper, and they were drugged. Their coffee was drugged because that guy was going to just bring them to that, the warden or whatever of that prison.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that Rob did that like slow head turn to me and was like, "Are you trying to tell me this conspiracy theory nut would have actually drank that coffee?"
Yeah, I was like, he would have just drank coffee a stranger gave him.
Yeah, not only a stranger, but a Russian stranger.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think that guy would have drank that coffee. Like, but I mean, I get why they did it now. They had to have knocked him out somehow. I guess Joyce could have been the one who got drugged, and maybe that guy went to go fight him and got knocked out. But then we had to find out later on that this guy actually knows, hand-to-hand combat to some degree. Because then they ended up fighting on the plane or on the helicopter. No, it was a plane. The first one was a plane. Then they flew in the helicopter. Anyway, there's a lot of back and forth. 11 fucking kicked a whole lot of ass eventually. Yeah, I don't know. What was your favorite scene? Well, other than the Metallica concert scene, what was your guys' favorite scene?
I think my favorite scene for me was honestly probably what's his name? The conspiracy theory nut guy. What's his fucking name?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I should know his name. But it's when he all his bullshit paid off for him, and he became an ass kicking guy because he's has karate. He's talking himself.
Yeah,
yeah, and that was my favorite scene. I can't think of his name.
When they were on the plane, you mean, where it was I know karate.
Yeah, he's I know, he's explaining it to her. He's I know karate. He's well, I've only sparred with and beaten 13-year-olds or whatever.
Yeah, kids.
kids. But then, like, he actually has like his moment. He's just like, wait a minute, I can do this, and he becomes like badass karate ass kicker throughout the film.
Rob, what about you?
Well, one of my favorite scenes, I think, is when Max is in like Vecna's house, and then she's running at the end towards the like open doorway, and you're not sure if she's going to make it there. Like that was one of the ones that I liked.
Okay.
Where she has that song playing as she's running, and like everything's crashing all around her, and she's running for the open door.
Yeah. I will say, other than the Metallica scene, one of my scenes led to probably one of Rob's, I'm sure, favorite moments, not necessarily scenes. So, but like one of my favorite scenes was when 11 had escaped that facility, and they had like the military sniper copter, like zeroing in on her, and he kept making shots, but she was like making the copter wave back and forth, so he kept missing, and then eventually she just slammed it to the ground and blew fucking everything up.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I say this is one of Rob's probably favorite moments, and I'm only guessing, is because he actually got to prove me wrong for once. Because I admit I thought there were 2 helicopters, and Rob was like, "No, I'm pretty sure there was only one." So we rewound it, and it was only one, but because of the way they shot it, I was seeing the shadow from the first helicopter on the ground behind it, and I thought that was the second helicopter. So I was wrong. I admitted it. It doesn't happen often.
I bought I Was Right t-shirts.
Yeah, you can buy them in the merch store. Rob was right once.
Rob's never right. Even when he's right, he's never right.
Well, he hasn't officially made it to broken clock status yet. You were right once. You haven't been right twice yet. Broken clock is right twice a day. But I give him shit. I just all in all, though, I think overall the season I thought was phenomenal. I like how intense their D&D game was when they got Erica, I believe is the little sister's name, to fill in, and they were actually fighting Vecna. And I know a lot of people, and I had read this, there was an article where people got kind of upset when I guess Eddie had made some offhanded comment about inquiring what class she was, and she had made a comment about, essentially like being a dwarf or something. She had made some sort of comment where they answered in a way where she answered as being a race other than a class in D&D. And they're like, oh, they don't really know what they're talking about as far as D&D, blah, 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 blah. Like, she might have said dwarf or whatever. I want to reiterate, and I want to remind people, now, first off, it's a goddamn TV show. First and foremost. Which is important for my next point after this. But second, in older editions of D&D, like 2nd edition D&D, you have to remember elf wasn't a race. You couldn't be an elf ranger or whatever. Elf was a class. Why that was, I don't know. That was just how it was back in the day. I don't remember the lore behind it or the story behind it. So, you got to keep that kind of open-minded interpretation of it. Now, another thing that was brought up in that same article that I read, and the Duffer brothers, who created the Stranger Things show, commented on it, was that the time that this took place, it was like the mid 80s or something like that, mid to late 80s, is when this particular season was taking place. Vecna hadn't been introduced in the D&D lore until I think the 90s. So Vecna wasn't around at the time that this Stranger Things was supposed to have taken place. And the Duffer Brothers commented saying that they knew that, but they wanted to take they had the visual concept for the character they wanted, and they wanted to associate it with a D&D villain or monster that was iconic to some degree. And so they just went with it. They honestly, they pretty much said that they didn't care, that they wanted to use Vecna because it fit, you know what I mean? And I'm not mad about it. I don't understand, like, I'm starting to have, especially like, I read something about the new Sandman show, and I had mentioned it to Rob, and it's like, I'm really tired of people just finding things to nitpick about, especially when it comes to a show that has a good story, like Stranger Things or Sandman, is visually appealing on multiple different angles, and is for the most part is time appropriate. Like, they went through and to make a show like Stranger Things now look like it was literally made back then, keeping the authenticity of the clothing, the decor of the houses, things like that. Who the fuck cares if they change one detail to make the story better? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm getting real tired of people nitpicking little tiny things like that. Like, Devin, for instance, I know you've only watched part of the first episode of Sandman. It's not even a spoiler.
I know, but I know about Sandman. Like, I know it's one of my favorite comics.
Good.
Morpheus is one of my favorite characters.
So the one thing that I read about an article, and people were having a thing on Twitter about it, is there are certain angles and certain shots in the show where it's visually distorted on like the sides, or like the characters seem a little bit more elongated than they should be because of camera distortion. And people were getting up in arms saying, "Oh, is it just me, or is it my TV?" And they're like, "Oh no, it's the show." And they're like, "Why are they doing this?" And it's like, dude, it's a fucking show. And like, even the makers of the people who made Sandman and whatnot were like, they did it because of the visual effects of the show.
Yeah, he told this to me, and I was like, "It's a show about the Master of Dreams. Of course, it's going to be like a little funky. That's what it's.
Yeah,
it's what it's about."
Yeah. So just people. I don't know.
And hold on. Like,
I think people just have to have something to bitch about or to complain about nowadays. Like, they can't just watch a show and enjoy the show for what it is.
Like, it makes no sense to complain about that. Like, look at the art. Let me get a good picture of it. Look at the art style.
I think I already know what picture you're going to send to.
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying, like, even just like the general picture of. Can I get a good picture? You're fucking with me right now. Hold on one second. There's a good, like, decent picture of it. What I'm looking for, but like, the art style is one of those things where it makes sense to me. Like, even the original like art style that like I'm used to of like the Endless is a little off or a little wonky. Like, the original art, like the art style itself's off and wonky.
Right.
It's not like neat and clean. Like, or here's like another panel from like the original comic. It's not like this like neat, clean
right
style, or like this one here. Like you could say those are three different characters, almost, and they're not.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. It's just like
Fun little tidbit of information as we're talking about Sandman real quick. Part of Roy's powers, or part of Roy, the reason why I wanted the Path of Morpheus, it is one of my favorite paths of thaumaturgy, was I actually was basing a little bit of Roy off of Morpheus. I do really enjoy.
Yeah, and I mean, here's a tidbit for you. I know that it's been a while since you've played in my D&D world. In my D&D world, we have something called the Council of Seven. Essentially, it's I mean, we took it from Sandman. You know, you have entities that are greater than even gods. Who were in charge, and like in my world, they are the ones who created the deities, and then the deities kind of like overflowed and like created humanity and this, that, and the other thing. But you have people like Dream and Desire, Death.
I mean, Death is the strongest of arguably almost any comic character because everything dies.
Exactly. I mean, and even in my world, I have made it known like. In my world, Fate is one of the council. They were the first ones created by Lux and Umbrix, which is light your typical light versus dark. That's how the universe started. And then they created Fate, which was the first being essentially, and then Fate created the rest of the quote unquote council in my world. And when they made Death. Fate, even though Fate was made first, Death is the only one capable of literally killing anything, including Fate. And Death said it best in Sandman, like, they were there at the beginning, they're going to be the ones at the end. And like I was telling Donnie about that, and I was giving him examples of all the different things that I pulled from, like, in my creation of the universe with, like, the light and dark. I kind of pulled that from Supernatural. You had God, and then you had Amara, who was literally the darkness. And I just took that and I changed a few aspects of it, and those were my original things. And then they had a fight which caused, their Big Bang Theory, which created Fate, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. As a DM, I pull from all different sources of material that I thoroughly find enjoyment of.
Right.
And it's my way of adding it to my story, is my way of sharing the things that I care the most about with other people. You know,
and like one of my favorite quotes, it's said by Death. It's a quote in the comics by Death. It's like, because she says, when the first living things existed, I was there waiting. When the last living things dies, my job will be finished. I'll put the chairs on the table, turn out the lights, and lock the universe behind me when I leave.
Yep, we've literally. I that is something that is said in the show. Me and Rob literally just watched that episode last night.
Yeah, no, it's literally, but it's true. Like it is true. Like, and the thing is, what I love about the, like, Death isn't death. Like, there's no, since she is the concept of death, and like really the endless in general, so they're all the concepts of them.
Right.
They are multiversal. They're not like, so like she's gonna like leave that universe and go kill in the next universe. Like she just jumps universe to universe because there's only one death. There's not the,
And see, like, I love the fact that, especially in the comics, they made death pleasant. Like, I mean, maybe not the action of dying. Maybe wasn't pleasant.
Well, I mean, in a weird way, if you like really like want to get like metaphysical and weird with like in life in general,
let's get weird, Devin.
Death kind of is peaceful and is good. It's it's the act of dying sucks a lot of the time, but like death is the one. It's the one absolute that you are guaranteed to be free. You're free of your, you're free of your physical form, and you move on to whatever's next, if there is anything, right?
Right.
But you're free of the pain. You're free of the suffering. You're free of just imagine, and you really can't imagine this because like there's never been the closest thing to this is being probably like a newborn child, but even then, I don't think that's the case. Imagine just having no worry, like about anything.
Yeah.
And that's like it's impossible to actually fathom that. But like imagine having no worry about anything ever. Like you just everything, you are not responsible for anything. And that's like it is in a weird way. Death is peaceful. Like death is. I'm not saying death's a good thing. But it is peaceful.
Right. Remind me after this, Devin, if you haven't watched already. I shared something with Donnie yesterday. It was Neil Gaiman sat down and he watched the trailer for Sandman, and he would pause it every so often, and he would explain, oh, this is such and such character, this is the actor or actress who played them, and, this is how they were when I wrote them, when he wrote them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in the end of that, interview or the snippet or whatnot, he had mentioned how, he started writing Sandman, he conceptualized Sandman back in the 80s. Okay, and I believe the comic ran from like the late 80s into the early to mid 90s, something like that. But he wrote this 30 years ago, and then now he gets to see it being adapted to a cinematic adaptation, movie, TV show, etc. And he was thankful that it took this long, because he feels like obviously if they tried to make this show 20 years ago, it wouldn't be what it is now. And he talks about how true to the comic they tried staying with it. And this, that, and the other thing. And I asked Donnie and whatnot, and I told him, I was like, how surreal of a feeling would that be to work on something of yours, and then, 30 years from now, you see it become popular enough to have a film adaptation and see it brought to actual life. That must be one of the most surreal feelings in the world. But it was a good little interview with him, and he did a breakdown of the trailer, and he showed some of the similarities, and he talked about some of the differences, and this, that, and the other thing. So, but yeah. Well, that's our little stint in the
I love Neil Gaiman's work in general, honestly.
I have a question for Rob now. I know we haven't finished Sandman, and without giving away any spoilers, even though, Devin's read a lot of the comics, so he would know a lot of the characters anyway. So far as what we've watched, Rob, who is your favorite character?
In Sandman?
Yeah.
Dream?
Okay, well, other than Dream, because Dream's literally the main character.
I would probably say Death then.
Okay. You enjoyed their interpretation of Death?
Yeah.
Right on.
I don't know, from this picture, who's the one standing in between Dream and Desire? Because that might be my favorite.
The shirtless pirate-looking dude?
Yeah.
It's Wrath, if I remember correctly.
Listen, Rob. Whoever it is, he's more than just a piece of meat. All right.
Not Raz. What's his name? Fucking. Hold on. What the fuck is that guy's name? Now I'm like, now I gotta.
I will say something that
Destruction. That's destruction.
I don't think that they have properly been able to show yet. But you know the guy that I pointed out in the show, Rob, who has like the weird eyes. Essentially, he looks like he has no eyes when he takes his glasses off.
Mm-hmm.
Those are supposed to be mouths, by the way.
Oh.
He has little tiny eye mouths.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah. And his whole thing is he goes around and he like rips out other people's eyes and then he eats them using his eye mouths. And it allows him to see and experience what that person has seen and experienced.
Mm.
So I forget that character's name. It's fuck. Devin, who's the eye mouth guy? The nightmare that runs rampant.
Fuck. I can't remember his name.
I almost want to say it starts with C. I feel like it starts with a C.
The Corinthian?
Corinthian. Yeah. So. But anyway, Rob, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? I mean, we've kind of covered a small little gambit of things and whatnot. I didn't know if there's anything you wanted to bring up specifically to chat about.
Not really. Although the shirtless guy comment reminded me of one of my other favorite parts of freaking Stranger Things.
Oh boy!
Because it was funny when Steve takes his shirt off to go jump in the lake and whatever, and the guys on the shore, they're like, "Oh my god, he's so hairy." And Dustin's like, "Yeah, I told him he should save, but he says that the ladies love the rug." And then Max is like, "Let me see," and then she's staring for a long time, and they're like, "Max."
Yep. I like how in that scene Eddie's just like, really, you gotta. And then when Eddie decides to jump in the water, he just goes with all of his clothes on. He's like, "Fuck that, I'm just going. Fuck it." Devin, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up before we end? Because we're right around that hour mark. So.
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
I'm talking to you guys.
Yeah. Trying to think. I don't think there's anything else I need to bring up either. So I think that's where we're going to end it. Actually, before we go to a science corner with Rob, which will give Devin time to find life advice with Devin, I will say there's two things, Rob, that I forgot to send you.
Oh, yeah.
One of which was a joke thing that I came across, and then the other thing was, I'm sure, again, probably one of those articles where it was clickbait, and if I didn't even read the article, I saw the headline, I was going to send it to you, but you probably would have been like, this is dumb. But the first one was, it showed like this weird thing, it says, oh yeah, NASA scientists discovers new life on another planet or whatever, and I read the article, and it was a scientist playing a joke by taking a microscopic photograph of a piece of sausage.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yep.
It
wasn't that they discovered life. He said that it was a close-up of the closest star near us. The telescope, yeah.
And I was going to send you that one, so you've already seen that. And then I saw an article about, I guess, scientists saw for the first time ever something coming out of a black hole.
Yeah, that does sound vaguely familiar. I may have read about that too.
So I don't know how important that is scientifically. I'm assuming pretty important, seeing as though black holes are supposedly supposed to like consume everything, right?
Yeah, I think it was Hawking's that had a theory that black holes had to expel some kind of energy in order to not continuously grow. Like as they got so big, they would expel some kind of energy and shrink back down, and then start to grow again. So I think that's kind of just proving that theory. I don't remember what it's called though. It's some kind of radiation, I think. But yeah. But that's the first time they've actually seen it happen. But they kind of theorized that it did happen, I guess.
Gotcha. Do you have something for the Science Corner this week?
Just a short one. They found a viral link between multiple sclerosis, so they might have new ways to treat it.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the past I had helped raise money for that particular. I don't know, is it a disease, affliction? I guess I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it would be classified as. I know some people who suffer from it, so I had something else to say. Did you also see that thing that they saw on one of the planets, like the rock with the face on it or some shit like that? I'm sure it was just a shadow and it just made it look like a face, but
yeah, well, a while ago they found a stone that looked like a face on Mars, but yeah, it was just from being weathered. Yeah. I don't know if that's it, but yeah.
That's probably it. Devin, do you have a life advice with Devin?
I do kind of, sort of. I forgot like the exact. I had it, and then I forgot like the exact verbiage when I had it. But I do have something. Hold on a second here. Let me, do you see it? I might be lucky. Did I like leave it pulled up when I was like looking around? It was like I really liked it. It's not there. I would just. If I was a smart person, I would have saved it, but I'm not a smart person. I ain't no smart man.
As you slide down the banister of life, may all the splinters be facing the right way. Well, that's always my go-to every time.
The effective way of what it was people always think like the journey of life is about becoming something, like becoming who you want to be, but in reality it's about losing the qualities that stop you from being who you already are.
All right.
You know, as life goes on, you realize more and more like who you really are as a person, and that's kind of, I think, it, because with life comes experience and things like that, and every experience ideally should make you more who you really want to be or who you truly are as a person. So in the journey of life's not always about, you know, accumulating new personalities or new ideals. It's about losing the ones that's stopping you from realizing who you truly are.
I will also say, if in life one door closes and another door opens, you might have ghosts. I'm just saying.
Oh, Jesus. I have an old Irish proverb that my ex-wife used to always say.
Oh, boy.
It was, to our enemies, may God turn their hearts. And if he cannot turn their hearts, may he turn their ankles, so we will know them by their limping.
Jesus. Well, there you go. With that, everybody, where can they find you on the internet, Rob?
You can find me on Twitter at Confessor_X and on Twitch at twitch.tv/ConfessorX.
And where can they find you on the interwebs, Devin?
You guys can find me on Twitter at DMP_Pookie. You can find me on Twitch at Mr. D3. And as always, you can find me on eBay looking for a freaking Sandman mask.
That is a cool looking mask. Although I don't know how he sees out of it.
Why does he breathe through his spine?
Yeah, that's true. As always, everybody, you can just follow me on Twitter at JaxForestWalker, all one word, on Twitch at DMWebby, and on eBay at Helping Devin Find Sandman Paraphernalia. We love you. Thank you for listening, and fuck Booster Gold.
Fuck Booster Gold.
I love how when I sing the outro song, it's never like on key. I'm never bum at the right time. Da-da-da-da.